Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today, I'll be joined by a very special guest that you've been seeing all over Player Profiler News, the Twitter sphere, and a ton of other places, Brendon Booth, as we break down some of the trending topics from around the league, the NFL draft, the Stefon Diggs trade, the Rashee Rice situation, and we're, of course, going to get a hot take from him and his rookie flag plant at the end of the show, so make sure you stick around. We've got a good one lined up for you guys today, so go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And there he is, Brendon Booth. How you doing this morning?
I got to be honest with you, Jason. First of all, it's great to be here with you. Secondly, I would only do this for you. I had a plan, 6:15, alarm set. I'm getting up. I'm going to make some coffee. I'm going to do my show prep and everything, get upstairs to the studio and hop on. And I laid there for a second. And I went, you know what? I'm not going to make coffee. I'm just going to go back to sleep after we're done. So no coffee for me. It's all seltzer.
I love the grind, man. You are, I believe the first West Coaster to come on and do this live with me. So really appreciate you getting up early. Really appreciating you just setting the standard for you guys on Pacific Standard Time. Just because it's early doesn't mean you can't join me on the Wake and Take. Come on,
No, that's true. That's true.
So thanks.
I'm ready.
I know, dude. It's going to be good. Shout out everyone here in the chat. I see you, T-Real. I see you, Big Time Timmy Jim. I see you, Jamie, Scrap Iron, Dave, Mr. Brownstone. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's go ahead.
I do have to shout out Big Time Timmy Jim real quick because it's an ode to one of the legends of the San Francisco Giants. Yesterday I was doing some spring cleaning and I found all my old Giants bobbleheads, and I am currently wearing a chapeau of the San Jose Giants single A team, Giants organization, Giants affiliate. So shout out Big Time Timmy Jim. Tim Lincecum is a legend.
I actually had no idea Big Time Timmy Jim was a Tim Lincecum reference. In fact, you just showed off your San Francisco Giants bobbleheads. I went to a San Francisco Giants game that Tim Lincecum pinched at and got a Tim Lincecum bobblehead. So nice. I've got to find that and send a picture of that to you after the show. And Big Time Timmy Jim, why didn't you let me know? I should have known, I guess.
Reach out, Timmy Jim. Let Jason know. In fact, everybody who has a nickname in their handle, go ahead and send Jason Allwine a DM and let them know exactly where it came from, what the genesis of that nickname is.
Yeah, I need to know. I need to know these things. I can't just be going out here and calling Mr. Brownstone, unless his name is Mr. Brownstone, right? And then that's totally fine. But I want to know the origins. That's important. And speaking of origins, we've got some trending topics to talk about, and we're going to start with the NFL draft. Brendon, I have 5 questions on this show sheet about the NFL draft. We'll start first. Are you buying the J.J. McCarthy hype?
Absolutely.
Nice.
Let's get one thing straight about J.J. McCarthy. Just because he didn't do it a lot doesn't mean that he can't do it, because he did do it and he did it well. Go back and watch some of the YouTube videos that are out there, specifically Brett Coleman, and he and E.J. Snyder break down J.J. McCarthy's performance at the combine and how he did in the wide receiver drills and what the coaches were asking him to do. And he was putting the ball exactly where he needed to. He was second in the miles per hour on his arm strength, 61 mile per hour. I think Joe Milton was the only one who threw it harder. The kid is real, and I'm all in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you too. I'm very excited to see where he can go, because I do think that this will be a guy that will sneak up into these super flex drafts. I know, like, when we started at the mock drafts, he was going in the second round, and now we're seeing him even sometimes get picked in the top 5. And I do think that top 10 draft capital will definitely solidify that. You know, you mentioned it. You don't have to have the stats that are just like wowing you in the morning at any point to be a good quarterback. He managed games really well. He rarely turned the ball over. He won a lot and only lost one game his entire career. and did a lot with not even the greatest weapons. I mean, I like Roman Wilson a lot, but it's not like he's an alpha guy out there. And Blake Corum wasn't necessarily a great pass catching running back, and yet this offense was still clicking, and a big part of that was JJ McCarthy. So I'm glad that you're buying the hype.
And if you remember back in his freshman sophomore days when he wasn't starting, or not necessarily the class year, but when he wasn't starting yet, they would bring him in on RPO plays. And he started off getting his feet wet in the run game as a quarterback. So the kid can scoot, and he'll be able to bring that rushing upside to fantasy as a quarterback.
Awesome. Great take on JJ McCarthy. Let's talk about another quarterback that is definitely climbing up the draft boards as well. This one a little bit more recently after a disappointing Senior Bowl, not really doing much at the combine, had a pretty impressive pro day, and people remember the stats. Michael Penix sneaking into round 1. Are you buying that?
Not necessarily. There are fallers. There are quarterback fallers in every draft, and for Penix to get taken in the first, it means that somebody likes him more than whoever is going to be the big faller out of the first round. And he's got that injury history that might scare people away. I think arm talent wise, I think he's one of the best in the class. I like him better than Bo Nix. The Raiders are picking at 13. That's my team. And if they're going to take a quarterback at 13, not move up or anything, and their choice is Nix or Penix or even Spencer Rattler, then I want Penix, and a first round pick is definitely on the table, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's definitely, if he gets picked in the first round, it's whether somebody trades up into the 20s, maybe trades back into the 20s, but kind of at the end, just to lock down that 5th-year option. I do think that that'll be important for some teams to have that availability. And that's why I also am starting to think that we might see even Bo Nix's name called. I know that he's even a lesser tier behind Michael Penix, but those 5th-year options are pretty important for a quarterback, especially ones like Michael Penix, like Bo Nix, that took 20 years to even be good at college football. Giving them extra time, I think, would be important.
Yes.
So, would you like Michael Penix on the Raiders, or would you rather them just kind of stick with Minshew? Okay.
Yeah, I like Michael Penix, and I did some video analysis, whatever, and watched him throughout his career. I'm on the West Coast. I'm a Pac-12 fan. I'm a Cal Bears fan. They play Washington every year. As once Penix came over to play for University of Washington from Indiana, I did get to watch him, and I studied the film a little bit. And there he made a big leap in 2 areas. And number 1 was his footwork, and number 2 was staring down receivers. And when he was trying to go for his first look, and his 3 years ago, he was bad. And I watched film and I was like, ooh, I don't like that at all. And then the last couple of years, he really worked on it and fixed those problems. His footwork is nice. He's pointed to the receiver when he's throwing, but he also can throw off platform, and he doesn't stare receivers down like he used to. So I think he's more NFL ready than he was a couple of years ago. And that's encouraging.
Yeah. I'm, again, excited to see where he can go. I'm hoping, I know we just talked the Raiders, but I hope he goes to Seattle. I hope he reunites with his offensive coordinator. I think he'd do really well with those weapons. I think that would be a really, really good offense for him. So we'll see what happens. This draft.
JSN to the moon.
Yes, JSN. Metcalf might get revitalized. Even Tyler Lockett, people would be taking in best ball pretty frequently. So that's what I'd be hoping for. And this draft, so exciting. Lots of different takes out there. It could go so many different ways, especially on the offensive side of the ball. We're currently on the quarterback topic. And I feel like the hottest take we can give right now is, who is your quarterback 2 in this draft class?
Got to stick with Jayden Daniels. He had an historic season last year. The NFL has had a history of Heisman Trophy winners not succeeding, but Jayden Daniels is, I mean, he had a year last year that was off the charts. He did have 2 pretty much NFL-ready wide receivers that he was throwing to, and he was a one-look guy. One look, don't see him, pull it down and run. He's got that rushing upside that's going to be winning fantasy championships. You can't not like the guy. I've seen comps to Robert Griffin III, and if we remember, Robert Griffin III's first couple of years, he was a league winner. So if that's Jayden Daniels, if that's where he kind of slots into the NFL and the fantasy picture, I like that a lot. And I mean, you can't really call anybody better than Caleb at this point, but to slot into the number 2, I think I'd go with Daniels.
I think I'm with you there. I've been kind of going back and forth with Drake May, but I really don't think you should overthink it. I think you should just go with the best college football quarterback from the last season. If you're not going to have or if you're going to have Caleb Williams at quarterback 1, you might as well go with the next Heisman winning quarterback at number 2 and just not overthink it. I see the ceiling with Drake May, but he hasn't done what Jayden Daniels did. And hopefully, I love the RG3 comp. I think that's even pretty close to what we have at Player Profiler, at least one of the comparables. And hopefully with RG3, you talked about how good he was early. Hopefully, that lesson of not trying to play through injuries and, maybe telling the coaching staff to be like, hey, I'm not good. Like, don't let me ruin my career. Hopefully that precedent has been set for him, because I know there has been some health concerns with Jayden Daniels over the last few weeks just because of his frame and the type of quarterback he is. Hopefully he'll be okay. Excited.
He doesn't avoid contact. Let's put it that way.
Right. And we just saw what happened with Anthony Richardson with that exact same issue. But of course we have precedents now, and now quarterbacks can be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing that, but we'll see. Excited to see what happens there in the quarterback room. Are you wavering on wide receiver 1? Is it Marvin Harrison Jr. for you, or are you going Nabers? Word of it.
I'm a Nabers guy, and I'll tell you exactly why. So there are some analytics out there. There are some production stats from college careers. And when we look at first downs per route run, Nabers was second in the class behind only Marvin Harrison Jr. Yards per route run against man coverage. Basically, are you getting separation against man and getting the ball to you? He was 4th in the class. Marvin Harrison Jr. was number 1. That puts Marvin Harrison Jr. right there in elite company. He was first in those 2 stats. But when you start to move out of those 2 analytics and move into a more all-around approach in your game, yards per route run against zone, Mailk Nabers was 2nd, and Marvin Harrison Jr. dropped to the bottom of the class. Yards after the catch per reception, Nabers was 3rd in the class, and missed tackles forced per reception, Mailk Nabers was 1st. So when you aggregate all of those analytics, Mailk Nabers was number 1 in the class by himself in his own tier. Nobody was even close. I think the separation between him and the number 2 was bigger than the separation between 2 and 6, 6 being Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, granted, this is purely production metrics. And there's no draft capital, none of the other things that we need to consider when we're looking at our rookie drafts and going, who are we going to take? None of those things are out there, but just based purely on those stats, Mailk Nabers is in a class by himself.
And that's kind of what we're starting to hear. All of these analytics people are coming out and saying Mailk Nabers just has a much higher ceiling than Marvin Harrison Jr. does. The floor is the argument there, but Nabers just burst onto the scene last year in particular, along with Jayden Daniels, along with Brian Thomas, and what he put on the field was something special. We've even come out and made his best comparable Jamar Chase now on Player Profiler. And to the audience, last night stayed up really late trying to put together this rookie guide. We were trying to release it. We're trying to release it tomorrow, but hopefully by the end of the week. And actually our composite rankings, the Player Profiler composite rankings with Theo Greminger, Matty Kiwoom, Cody Carpentier, John Lobb, and the Undroppables has Mailk Nabers as the highest rated rookie for single QB rookie leagues.
Which is funny because I work for Player Profiler and the Undroppables, and I wasn't consulted, but I still agree.
Yeah, hey, neither was I, right? Neither was I. I'm just looking at it. But yeah, a 1.8 average, whereas Marvin Harrison Jr. has a 2 average. In fact, a couple people put Marvin Harrison Jr. as wide receiver 3, which kind of shocks me here. And Matty Kiwoom.
Like I said, he was 6th in my model.
There you go.
So, yeah, and spoiler alert, we'll talk about somebody else a little bit later.
Ooh, all right. So that's a good wide receiver take. I'm curious because I think everyone has a different opinion here. Oh, everyone has a very different opinion here. Who's your rookie running back one?
It's Braelon Allen. Don't at me.
Okay.
So, and again, that's right now. There's no draft capital involved. There's no situation, no team, and we don't know the system he's going to be in, anything like that. But what I'm looking at is I'm looking at his age. I'm looking at his breakout age. He's one of the youngest running backs in the class, and he had a breakout really early, and his physical profile. He fits the profile of a guy that can be a bell cow in the NFL and have 2 or 3 top 12 fantasy finishes. Not a lot of guys in the class. There's only one that I can think of who has the physical profile to do that, because it's highly correlated. Body type is highly correlated to running back success in fantasy football. But he's going to need the right situation. He's going to need to come in and be a starter. But he'll have the durability. He's not going to deal with injuries. He can learn the passing game. I really, really, really like his profile. So for now, he is my RB1.
I don't hate it. I'm still trying to figure out what it is about Braelon Allen's disappointing combine, but just looking so good on film and having that frame and interviewing super well. I mean, he talked about at the combine when Matty Kiwoom interviewed him that he's been learning from Derrick Henry for over a year now. He had spoken with him before last college season, had been working on his workout regimen, literally copying Derrick Henry's diet, his workout regimen, all of that stuff to try to be a better running back. And he has the frame of a Derrick Henry. He doesn't have quite the explosiveness, but he has the frame. And that is super important at the NFL level. And I see, isn't he unathletic? And that's, maybe true kind of when you look at the athletic profile based on the combine stuff. But when you watch the tape, I mean, he's got really good footwork. He hits holes really well. And he's just a big kind of quick running back, even if the testing stuff doesn't really point to it. So I think this is going to be an example of a running back who gets drafted a bit higher than we might think, and then produces a lot more than we might think. I think that he's going to be a pretty solid running back next season. And again, very curious to see the landing spot, but I like the take. I think it's a pretty good one. And not a lot of people are out there calling Allen number 1. I want to say he was our original rookie running back one for Player Profiler when our rookie rankings were originally published. And that's mostly based on film because that's pre-combine. And that says a lot to me. So
when he broke out as a freshman, everybody kind of threw him up their draft boards and said he's the RB1. And over time, that kind of gets diluted by other players' performances and things like that. Combine numbers aren't everything. You watch the tape, and the way that he moves in small spaces is remarkable for somebody his size. And the least corollary combine metric that we have to running back success is 40 times. So we can't really say, well, he's fast or slow. That's going to affect anything. So I'm one of the people who has had him as number 1 for a long time, and I have not wavered off that. And I'm not gonna until maybe, Blake Corum goes to the Chargers or something else happens like that. But yeah, I'm sticking with Braelon Allen.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a ton of success from Wisconsin running backs at the NFL level, right? And if we're going to talk about not having much speed, we also have to remember that the fastest running back at this year's combine, Isaac Guerendo, was Braelon Allen's backup and had to transfer because he couldn't see any playing time despite having that good of an athletic profile. I think that speaks volumes about Braelon Allen personally.
And Isaac Guerendo.
And Isaac Guerendo, yes. So that's it for the NFL draft, but I do want to get your your takes on some of the other trending topics from around the league. And we'll just start with the Stefon Diggs trade. Did you like it for the Texans and the Bills? Like, what did you just think when you saw it?
How could you not like it for the Texans? We saw what Tank Dell could do as a rookie, and it's hard for rookies to break out as wide receivers. And he pretty much did that. He put himself on the map. We already had Nico Collins, and some of us pegged him as a third-year breakout, and C.J. Stroud came in and made him just that. Dalton Schultz isn't really a factor. Their running back situation, they're not catching a lot of passes, so that means a lot of balls going down the field. C.J. Stroud can get it there, and when you have a wide receiver core that's Stefon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, I mean, C.J. Stroud is going to feast, and Stefon Diggs is going to be a benefactor, and I like that move for the Texans. For the Bills, I don't hate it for Dalton Kincaid. I don't hate it for James Cook. But they're going to need to do something to get another alpha in that room because they don't have one at this point.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little cautious about buying a Bills player right now, because I do want to see who it ends up being from the draft, or maybe they go make a splash trade. But I would be shocked if they go into 2024 with these players. Like someone else is coming in. I don't know who it is yet. And so I'm kind of personally taking a little bit of a wait and see approach when it comes to trading for the Bills players. But what about you? Is there a certain player you're targeting to either buy or sell?
On the Bills?
Yeah, on the Bills.
Dalton Kincaid.
Okay, buying?
Buy Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
I mean, targets opening up for him, and that's huge, especially since we know his profile and what he's capable of. More balls to him. That's only good news.
I like that one for sure. A little pricey, but I think that he's probably the more insulated one, especially just being a tight end. Like, he's not going to lose value really at all. And there's a potential. I mean, he's just the man in Buffalo next year. So I like that a lot. On the Texans side, is there anyone you're buying or selling as a result?
CJ Stroud. He, as soon as they made that trade, he quickly moved up my quarterback rankings. I was not as high on him. Other people were trying to anoint him right away and move him into the top 10, and I was hesitant to do that. But as soon as that trade went down, he slipped into my top 10.
Nice. So you're buying some Stroud?
Yeah, absolutely buying CJ Stroud.
Yeah. I've moved him up to quarterback 1. I'm not even going to lie, but
I haven't gone that far, and but I've seen a lot of people do that, and I don't blame you. That's especially in Dynasty because, like, you know, he's entering his second year. He's got nothing but all of the time in the world in front of him and a fantastic receiving core. So it's a good move.
Definitely. And I'm a 6-point passing touchdown guy. None of that 4-point passing touchdown shit. So.
Now I'm in the Undroppables expert league, and we're in the middle of our draft right now. And we got to the third round before I realized it was a 6-point quarterback touchdown. And I went, I'm glad I already have my 2 quarterbacks, but I might have taken CJ Stroud instead of Jalen Hurts, and that would have changed everything.
That's all right. I still think you can't be upset about getting any Hurts in a league. So
no.
You'll be chilling. You'll be good, man. So that's the Stefon Diggs situation. Agree with both of those. Just real quick, we're not going to get into anything about the Rashee Rice situation. We're not lawyers. We have no earthly idea what the hell is going on. But are you buy, sell, or hold on Rashee Rice?
Sell.
Sell. What are you looking for?
Give me a second rounder. I'll take a second rounder for him because I'm improving on my draft capital that I spent to get him, and so I'm moving up a tier, and I'm not going to have to worry about his suspension. I'm not going to worry about the acclamation of Hollywood Brown or any of that stuff. But I'm going to take a second round rookie, and I'm going to steal somebody who we'll talk about in a second.
Nice. Yeah, I think I would want a high-end second right now, maybe a mid, depending on what league it is. I think personally with Rashee Rice, what I'm trying to do is go get Hollywood Brown and a cherry on top, if applicable, in your league. I would like to stay within the Chiefs as much as possible. And maybe it'll be a rookie wide receiver that maybe you could try to make that move with after the draft. Maybe get Rashee Rice and potentially your rookie flag plant. Why don't you've been teasing this, so let's go ahead. Who are you planting your flag on? What rookie's your dude?
My dude is Lad McConkey from University of Georgia, former Bulldog wide receiver. Now, the model that I talked about before, the only person who was close was Lad McConkey. He was second in the model behind Nabers. He was in a tier with Jamari Thrash. Jamari Thrash, who's old and had a long career, and it's a production model. So he's been around to kind of boof up those numbers. McConkey was third in first downs per route run. That's becoming this statistic that we're looking at that is becoming super important and very correlated to success in the NFL. McConkey was third in the class in yards per route run against zone coverage, which means if he's in the slot and he's running against zones, he's going to absolutely feast to the point of, like a Hunter Renfrow 2022 top 10 wide receiver. He was fourth in yak per reception in the class. So when he gets the ball and he's out in the field, he's going to turn that into extra yards. And he was fourth in missed tackles forced per reception. So you get him open in a zone, get the ball to him, and he's going to make things happen with it. I love Lad McConkey.
Yeah, he is definitely a stud when it comes to real football. My only pause with Lad McConkey is I need to see the landing spot personally. I think he's an absolute stud. I think he's going to be incredible, but I'm still not quite sure what that means for fantasy. But again, you mentioned everything that makes him such a good football player. He absolutely shined at the Senior Bowl and then backed it up with a very impressive combine. And he's going to be an instant producer at the NFL, not as just a slot receiver, but he's probably going to be a punt returner as well, or at least contribute on special teams. And that just helps you make a roster. I see here, if Lad is a Chief, he'll see lots of zone coverage. And I think that he will probably be sitting there pretty for the Chiefs to take a chance on him at 32. And if that happens, man,
and he's the kind of unhyped guy who's coming into this draft, and he's gained a lot of steam since the combine. It's not like he's an unknown factor at this point, but he's the kind of guy that even if he has a bad-ish landing spot, without a whole lot of hype, he's going to be the guy that earns his targets, and he's going to basically become a target monster. He's going to be his quarterback's best friend. Yeah. So if he goes to a bad team, his quarterback is going to fall in love with him. If he goes to a good team and maybe he has some competition in the wide receiver room, his play is going to outshine some of those other guys. And the only thing that landing spot will determine as far as Lad McConkey's success is how long it's going to take him to reach his potential, because he's going to come into the NFL and he's going to be a beast right away. Whether he gets that opportunity or not, that's to be determined, but the ability is there.
Definitely. Yeah. He had his route running and just finding the pockets of defense is really unmatched. I would say really only him and Roman Wilson are the guys kind of doing that at that level in this year's draft. And that's why I like Roman Wilson, another wide receiver going kind of in the second round right now in our rookie draft. So lots of potential.
Stock up on second round picks. I'm telling you, all of the wide receiver gems in this class are going to be there.
Not even just the wide receivers. There's going to be running backs there, and potentially Michael Penix or Bo Nix if they don't quite get the draft capital in your super flex leagues. And you could be probably a quarterback, like a starting quarterback in 2025, maybe with a bad spot, or a starting quarterback next year with a good spot. So I love second round picks this year. And I assume that's why you said you're probably ready to move on from Rashee Rice for that, just because there's so many studs in that round right now. Good call. Good call. So we're talking about rookie flag plant. Let's go ahead and get your, not necessarily flag plant, but just we've had lots of players switching teams due to free agency, due to trades. Which one's your favorite? Who's numero uno?
So it's not that I didn't understand the question. I just needed clarification. So it says in the show sheet, favorite new situation, free agency or trade. Now, is that somebody whose situation has changed because their team is different, or somebody whose team has changed because of the free agent situation? So I had two answers. My first answer is Hollywood Brown. He's changing his team situation. He's going to be catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, and he's going to be on the field with Travis Kelce to distract from him. All of the things that we didn't see in Arizona that we hoped to see with him coming out of Baltimore are going to come to fruition in Kansas City. Whether that means he's, a 120 target guy in Kansas City, maybe not, but his situation definitely improved, and I like that. On the other hand, you have a guy who stayed, but his situation changed, and that's George Pickens. Number one, he got a new quarterback in Russell Wilson, and number two, the target hog Deontay Johnson moved on to Carolina, which is great for Deontay Johnson and also great for George Pickens. Vacated targets is the key here. The other key is the quarterback's ability to get the ball to the wide receiver. George Pickens goes up the depth chart to the wide receiver one. Russell Wilson comes in, and last year, Russell Wilson had a higher catchable ball rate than Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. In fact, with 100 fewer attempts, he had as many uncatchable balls as Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett combined. So he's going to get the ball into Pickens' hands, and Pickens is going to eat this year. So I like that situation a lot.
I love both of those calls, really. I've been trying to get Hollywood Brown in any league possible, and it just hasn't happened. I'm close in the Trade Gods League, so stay tuned. Big time Timmy Jim, especially you since you traded him away. I'm getting him from the person you traded him to. It's going to happen. And then also, I just love George Pickens. I've been holding on to him since his rookie year. I live here in Georgia, so those dogs, they just kind of stick out to me.
Third-year breakout incoming.
Yeah, it better happen. I mean, he's had way too many incredible catches to not be a stud next year. Yeah, so
his talent has always been known. His rookie season, he was coming off an injury, so it was going to take a little bit of time for him to kind of get acclimated. Plus, Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and Duck, they weren't the best quarterbacks to get the ball to him. He had to learn the offense, and he was the Steelers basically stuck him in one role, and that hurt his value. He's going to ascend right now into more of an all-around do more wide receiver than just run down the field and see if we can get the ball to you.
Yeah, very, very exciting stuff. And it just makes you wonder, even like Pat Fryermuth, for example, his value is also plummeted due to quarterback play in Pittsburgh. Maybe he's a good buy too. Steelers offense, interesting stuff. Little segue action here. I've been buying Hollywood because I think nicknames, if you've earned a good nickname, you're probably good at football. And if you have a nickname like Hollywood, I think you're good at football. And if you have a nickname like Zeus, what do you think that could tell you, Brendon?
Well, let me give you my hot take. Raiders running back Zamir White will finish in the top 10 as a running back. That's my hot take. Okay, we talk about vacated targets with wide receivers. What about vacated handoffs? Is that a thing? Josh Jacobs, love him, Raiders legend. He has moved on. He's a Green Bay Packer now. And Zamir White got a little audition last year when Josh Jacobs got hurt and was the RB1 in the Raiders RB room for the last 4 games of the season. And all he did was produce 3 games over 100 total yards. He averaged 4.34 yards per carry. Mm-hmm. He was averaging 3 to 4 targets per game and 20 carries per game. Okay, so he takes over the running back room. Alexander Mattison is not a concern. He's not good, and so he's not going to steal anything from Zamir White. So Zamir White has a chance to get into the 300 carry range. And when you extrapolate his yards per carry last year in those 4 games at 4.34 yards per carry to a 17-game season as the starting running back, we're in the neighborhood of 1,500 yards rushing. He's going to be getting the same amount of targets as Josh Jacobs, roughly 3 to 4 per game. Jacobs, we know, was kind of a receiving back, 50 to 60 receptions per year, does help with the fantasy upside. And then we're going to see a positive TD regression because the offensive line will have been together and they're going to add a piece. They brought in Luke Getsy. They don't have a running quarterback to steal touchdowns from him. So while he only had 1 touchdown in those 4 games, that story is going to change over the course of a 17-game season with him as the running back 1. And he's going to surprise a lot of people. In the Undroppables league that we just drafted him in the 10th round. And if you're getting an RB in the 10th round who has potential to be a top 12, top 15 running back, that's incredible value, and Zamir White is going to bring that to you. That's my hot take.
I like it a lot. Zamir White is a very, very interesting prospect, but he has everything you want, especially the size. He's 6 foot, 214 pounds, and somehow runs a 4.40, which puts his speed score in the 96th percentile. We love that for an explosive running back, and that's why he had a high yards per carry. That's why he had 100 yards or a touchdown in every game he was the main running back last year, and that's why he saw 70% or more snaps in 3 out of 4 of those games. And even in the game that he didn't, he still had 20 carries and 5 receptions with only a 57% snap share, checking out that box score. So definitely very productive when given the opportunity. And you had an ample opportunity to buy this guy because he did nothing before that. Like he was like Josh Jacobs was like, that was kind of one of my concerns with Zeus. It was like, you would think with somebody with this type of profile, he'd come in and maybe get like 10 carries a game, like nothing crazy, but he wasn't doing that. He was just getting like one
Right.
to two. But that just speaks volumes about Josh Jacobs. That's why I'm excited he's in Green Bay. And when he was given that opportunity to see him produce, that's really all you can ask for. So I like that buy a lot, especially at the current value, because if the Raiders do not draft a running back, his value is going to skyrocket. I think that that's the one thing keeping people from buying him right now is they don't know if the Raiders will be drafting a running back. And I don't know if they really have to. Brendon, do you think they will?
I think they will, but we're talking about a 4th or 5th rounder. We're talking about like Isaac Guerendo towards the back of the draft, because the only thing that they need to do is get a young guy in who can be a 3rd down back. So a Dylan Lobby, an Isaac Guerendo, somebody with a pass-catching profile that's not going to be expensive at all. The other thing about the Raiders last year was the whole Josh McDaniels debacle. And McDaniels had his guys. So he played his guys that he liked, and everybody else was kind of like out the window, which didn't give opportunities for guys to step up. Once he left and Antonio Pierce took over the team, the offense, first of all, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't playing. So there were no loaded boxes. And part of the problem with Jacobs in the first half of the year was that the boxes were loaded. Nobody was scared of Jimmy Garoppolo. He wasn't going to take the top off of anybody. But Aiden O'Connell has a good deep ball. So he had offenses spread out. In a situation like that, Zamir White can cook. Josh Jacobs had some better games as soon as Josh McDaniels was gone. The field opened up, and that it totally changed the dynamic of the Raiders, and they played over 500 and started winning games. So they don't need to bring somebody in to compete with Zeus. He has the job. I think Alexander Madison coming over was not even really a handcuff. It was just, a veteran guy, like emergency, break glass in case of emergency kind of situation. He's not going to take anything away from him. And it's just it's a good situation all around. And I even like the 3rd down running back they haven't drafted yet. I like him too.
I do too. I actually really like this year's running back draft class. I think I'm very curious to see which ones we can get in like the 4th rounds of our rookie drafts, because I think there's a lot of like Isaiah Pacheco type potential, like a running back that just becomes a stud and we didn't even expect it.
In the mocks that we do with Seth, I really, really love those 4th round running backs.
Kamani Vidal, Isaac Guerendo. Those are some good names. We can keep going. Dylan Lobb. But either way, I love the take on Zeus. I'm really happy to see him finally kind of getting this opportunity. Been waiting for it. Such a good profile. That was pretty solid in college too. I mean, UGA running backs, they usually do pretty well.
Could you imagine a college backfield with Zamir White and James Cook? That's you should win a national championship if you have that.
Maybe you should. I don't know. So
how did they do that with Stetson Bennett? Okay.
We mean future Rams Hall of Fame quarterback Stetson Bennett?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, man. So that is all I have for you in terms of the topics, but I do just want to go ahead and check into the chat real quick, see if we have any questions.
Fire them at us. Let's go. Make us defend our takes.
Are the Steelers drafting a wide receiver? My answer is yes, in the 2nd or 3rd round. What about you?
Let's put it this way. If you're an NFL GM and you don't draft a wide receiver out of this class, you should be fired. So yeah, they're going to take somebody.
Yeah, for sure. Would you rather have Michael Mayer and 2 future 3rds or Hollywood Brown?
Michael Mayer and 2 future 3rds.
Me too. All right. Is Hollywood the new Tyreek?
No. There is only one Tyreek. There is another. There's another kid in college right now in Devy drafts, and I forgot his name. I think it's Isaac Austin, but he's like a little Tyreek clone, outproducing Tyreek as far as college production is concerned. But he's the same kind of profile. He's very small, but he like squats 600 pounds, something like that, and he's like 4.2 speed. It's not Isaac Austin. I have to check my notes, and I was unprepared for that. But there is another kid coming along who is a clone of Tyreek, and I'm excited for that.
Nice. That's very cool to see. Pulling the Devy, pulling the Devy trick out of that. That's nice. I see one question here that I'm going to answer. What is Stroud worth in Dynasty? 2 firsts is the question mark. I would say no. If I'm trading CJ Stroud, I need Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. I need a big, top 8 quarterback and something on top to want me to move on. I'm not going to take a bird in the hand for some birds in the bush. I'm not going to take that risk. What about you?
Unless you're talking about the 1 and 2, I'm not moving off Stroud for 2 firsts.
No, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Are you still wearing your pajama pants?
Well, no. Okay. I slept in my my Arkansas Tech University shout out Wonder Boys basketball shorts, if that counts. Yes, I'm still wearing the clothes that I slept in. but I'm not a pajamas guy.
Well, that should do it for our questions. Thanks a ton for joining me. Why don't you go ahead and tell the people where they can find you?
Let me for brevity's sake, find me on Twitter at BigBonedFFB, and that will lead you to all of the stuff. I have a show called the Dynasty Pulse that is on the Fantasy Football Plus network. Shout out Bradley Stalder. I also write for the Undroppables. I do a lot of video content for the Undroppables. I have a Raiders show for the Undroppables. And I have my own show and all that. So there's a whole lot of stuff out there. Find me at BigBonedFFB on Twitter, and I will tweet out all of the stuff that I'm doing. Oh, also Fantasy Football Advice Network, which is huge. We are the main sponsor of the Fantasy Football Expo this year. My partner at Player Profiler News Desk and the Dynasty Pulse, Mike Greinberg, aka Fantasy FF Canuck 99. He and I have a show over on FFAN that's it's redraft. It's for your Yahoo leagues, your home, your family leagues, work leagues, things like that. It's not for the degens like us. It's more of your basic fantasy football players. So we're doing that over there. A lot of places, but at BigBonedFFB on Twitter, get at me.
Nice. Definitely go follow him over there. And also check out the Player Profiler News Desk and Player Profiler Today, I believe.
And that was the short version.
Yeah, sorry. Right? You have a night at Player Profiler Today now, right? Correct?
Yes, I'm going to be doing Fridays. Theo, I need that link and everything. Let's get me hooked up. But yeah, I'm going to be doing Player Profiler Today on Fridays.
Nice. So go check out Player Profiler News on YouTube as well for some more of his Player Profiler adjacent work. Thank you for all the great work you're doing there. Thanks again for joining me. This was a very fun episode, and we'll have to have you on again sometime. Audience, thank you for watching. Everyone, have a terrific Tuesday, a wonderful rest of your week. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.